Hi, hello, how are you? How we doing? Thanks for stopping by. Today we're going to talk to some real people about some real things, people who live in real lives, doing real stuff. This is the Working Perspectives podcast. As always, I'm Matt Lavelle, accompanied by my editor and producer, Tom Byers. Our guest today is Nick Gill. As always, we can be found on YouTube, Instagram, and all podcast platforms at Working Perspectives Podcast. And please, if you could, follow us along on Twitter at WorkingPPod. And then if you would like to be a guest and do us the honor of coming on, you can email us at workingperspectives@gmail.com. We have had a bunch of requests come in already. Thank you so much to everyone who's requested. A couple people didn't pass the approval process. Kind of rough approval process. So Lord Voldemort, sorry. But you're a tech kid, can't do it. Hey, if you see Neville Longbottom though, give him the contact info. Draco Malfoy, you're kind of a platinum blonde. That's almost like half ginger to me. So you're not on either. And then Thomas Lavelle. Sorry, man. I know this is another week you didn't make it, but keep trying. It's a rough approval process. What are you gonna do? Now, before we get into it with our athletic director, Nick Gill, I have a guest expert. So at this moment, I'm going to kick it over to our guest expert, Bern Podkasy, who's going to give us a little synopsis of what to expect from this week's guest. Bern, take it away.
Some fun facts about Nick Gill. He once worked as a beat writer for the Oakland Raiders while living in Philadelphia. His favorite musician is Eric Carmen, and he has 2 career hole-in-ones to his name.
All right, and those were some fun facts about Nick Gill. Bern, thanks again for always coming through as a guest expert. All right, let's get started. All right, Shake, let me tell you about this guy.
Tell me all about him.
This guy is one of the greats. Look, Shake, you and me, we are proud members of the Confederation of Forestry Park Natives, the baddest gang in all the land, right?
Right, absolutely.
Had this guy grown up in Lansdale, he would have definitely been a member of the Confederation of Forestry Park Natives.
That's high praise. That's high praise, Matt.
It's one of those guys, you know what? When him and, his 44 brethren, you see these guys, and right away, I look at that jib, and I tell myself, I like the cut of that jib. He's got a good jib. Good jib. Right? So, let's go back a couple years, right? I think he's 1 year younger than me, so I'm probably 19, and I'm working at Vinny T's with Bern, and Nick here is in high school, right? So it's either St. Patrick's Day or some holiday or whatever that we made up, and him and his buddies come on down to Bern's house because Nick happens to be best friends with Bern's younger brother, right? Okay. So I'm there hanging out with Bern, and Bern's like, hey, let me introduce you to my my brother and his buddies. So he takes me over, I meet his brother, and maybe we'll have him on one day, maybe not, and then I meet this guy. This guy, Nick Gill. Right away, I know it's like me and this guy, we're going to be friends.
Love it first sight.
Really was. It was a bromance that bloomed right away. So either way, back then, I used to have a penchant for what are called Irish car bombs. And I'm not talking the real bomb. I'm talking the drink. And we know this drink where it's like, maybe 2/3 pint of Guinness, and then we got a 2/3 shot of JMO topped off with some Baileys. Drop it in there, chug it up, chocolate milk.
Delicious.
Now, I was underage, but I have already admitted to several crimes, so I did drink a lot of car bombs underage. Nicholas, though, he was not drinking the car bombs because I think they had like a basketball or some kind of sport. I forget. Either way, he wanted to be a good guy, but he witnessed the car bombs being drank, and he saw the madness that ensued. And for years after that, I had the nickname of Car Bomb Matt, which, I'm not going to lie, I wouldn't mind going back to that nickname. It was a good one. Car Bomb Matt's not bad.
We've discussed a lot of good nicknames, and that's a good one.
Yeah. I mean, it's no Chub Rock, but Car Bomb Matt's way up there, right?
It's no Kid Salami.
Oh God, there's only one Kid Salami, pal. So either way, years go by, and I see him around more and more. He ends up after high school going to Temple. So he then gets a house with Burns' brother down at Temple. We'd party down there, have some fun, always hang out, always a good dude to be around. Then he would move in to him and Byrne would move in together on another house near Temple years later. But either way, then what happened was Game of Thrones came into all our lives, right?
Mm.
And there was a time I got really into Game of Thrones, and I classified myself as an expert. And I used to go on another show as an expert of Game of Thrones. So that being said, I used to do another thing is where all of our friends, I would classify them as characters in the world of Game of Thrones. Like I always saw myself as kind of a Robert Baratheon, kind of a lovable kind of guy, or a tripod pain. You know what I'm saying? But then and then I saw like Byrne, right? Byrne is kind of like a Davos Seaworth in a way, kind of cool kind of dude. Then there was always guys like I was like Bronn too, right? I always
Yeah.
wanted to be a Bronn.
Everyone wants to be
might
Bronn, I think.
Bronn might be the best character in the whole damn show. He's one of them. Got the best line. So either way, this guy since day one was always classified as Sir Arthur Dane, the Sword of the Morning, right? He's a
Who's
once
that?
in it.
For our listeners at home, I mean, of course I know who it is.
All right. So, yeah. Okay. So, I don't know. I think it might have been season 6. Yeah, season 6. It was the year they had the Battle of the Bastards. So I believe that was season 6.
Mm-hmm.
So you remember they had like a flashback where young Ned Stark went to a tower, right?
Yeah.
And it was him and like 6 of his guys against 2 of the knights or 2 of the Kingsguard. And the one dude, right, almost killed Ned. And he was like the baddest dude. And he almost killed all of them. And he was like fighting with 2 swords and going nuts. He was like the best fighter, right?
Okay.
That's Sir Arthur Dane, the Sword of the Morning. All right. Now,
so
for those of
in
you,
the main part of the show, he's like an old dude, though, right?
He's dead in the main part of the show. He died at the tower.
I know this is we're bird walking here, but who's the old dude that always is like ends up fighting in some of the episodes, but he's like noticeably too old to be like actually fighting?
Oh, would that be Jorah Mormont? Is that Khaleesi's guy?
No, he's like even older than that. I don't know. I'll figure it out. Maybe one of our listeners will know what I'm talking about.
Was he around in the later episodes?
I forget. I'll look it up. I shouldn't even have brought it up. I
honestly, it's probably Davos who you're talking about.
Maybe.
Balder head kind of guy.
Yeah, just like
was with Stannis, had his fingers chopped off, called him the
maybe,
Onion Knight.
Yeah, maybe. I don't know. Anyway, continue, man. I'm sorry.
Either way, so so this guy Nick Gill, he's the reason they called Sir Arthur Dane the Sword of the Morning is if you're a Dane, the Sword of the Morning, it's called Dawn. It doesn't get handed down to you; it's earned, and it's given to a once in a generation talent that comes along once in a lifetime. That affects everyone, and it changes the world. That's this guy. All right,
man.
He's one of the greats, and I know we've been bird walking, as you call it. So I want to take this time. I want to introduce. He's an athletic director for a school district. His story of how he got there is incredible. He's a great guy to know. He's a great friend of the show. Nick, I know you're doing great and everything's happy and fun. But before we get started, I just want to know, have you seen the movie Bohemian Rhapsody? And if yes, what were your thoughts?
I have not seen it, but with that recommendation, I will certainly check it out. I also appreciate that introduction.
Don't check it. Nope, don't do it. No, it's not.
Watch it twice.
You're better off not seeing it. It's a sack of shit. It's an awful, awful movie. I turned it off not even halfway through. It's garbage.
Well, you saved me 2 hours then.
Yeah, I didn't even get to the AIDS stuff, which is apparently the best part. Yeah. When the best part of your movie is AIDS. Come on. Tells you all you need to know. But either way, brother, how you doing, man?
I'm great, buddy. I'm super fired up to be here with you. You're the man.
Not gonna lie, me and Shake have been buzzing to get you on, pal. Once I told him who you were and how great you are, and he also got a recommendation from a previous guest, Bernard Podkasey, who said that this guy is tap natch. We have quite the 44th lineup coming up because we booked you and we booked a couple other 44ers. We're gonna have the 44th thing coming up in here. So one of the reasons I want to get into this quick. So our guy here, Nick Gill, he was born in 44th, PA, right? And he 44th, I feel, in Lansdale have a lot of things in common with like the class of people that are there. It's like a blue collar, working class kind of town, maybe some white collar mixed in with the blue collar, whatever collar you want on it. We got a lot of collars, right? So I always, when I would hang out with you guys, I always thought like, yeah, these guys would mesh. We mesh good. And one of the things I loved is that I feel like kids that grew up like we did had a woods that they would hang out at, right? So we had the woods by us. It was, and like this is in a neighborhood where like it was all homes and stuff, but these woods for us were like next to a hospital. You know what I mean? So these woods, and we were really creative when we came up for the name of these woods, but we called them No Outlet, right? And that's just because the sign to walk into the woods said no outlet. Real creative thinkers here. But you and your people I cannot wait to tell Shake what you guys called your woods. Please, if you will, Mr. Gill.
Yeah, absolutely. So the border of 44th and Swearsville, there are railroad tracks. And that in those woods, which we referred to as hobo jungle, there was a lot of salacious activities going on back there.
Yeah, about it. Oh, that's where. So I love the progression of at first you're back there looking at the creek and the animals. When you're real little, you're like, whoa, what is this? Then when you grow up, you're building bike ramps and things like that and jumping bikes and all that good stuff. Then after that, you're having your first beer there, maybe smoking a cigarette there, Then after that, you're taking a girl back there and maybe playing a little baseball. You know what I'm saying? Playing a little baseball, right? Is that the escalation? Because that's what I never did the girl thing, but everything else I did, right? Was that the same escalation that you had?
Yeah, no doubt about it. That's where you always went to get down. And there was actually some mattresses that got back there in some way, shape, or form. And I think that was the time where we were like, all right, like that. I think this is probably have to put Hobo Jungle to bed at that point.
yeah, no pun intended. Dude, that's great. Did you guys ever build a tree fort?
We didn't. No, we had some bike ramps back there that we would ride on. We didn't get to the tree fort. I don't think we were that motivated,
Dude. So there was this like lumber place that was so we call it was a Korean church. It was near our house, but there was like this lumber place that was right next to it that didn't have a fence. So like one year we stole like a bunch of wood and like we would just steal wood out of people's yards and stuff. And we built this fort that like, because I remember one time, I think we counted, there was like 18 of us on this like platform that could fit up there. And like, we had like, we had underneath and we had like 2 perches up top. Like it was pretty badass tree fort. But that's where we would play like manhunt and capture the flag and things like that in the woods. And then eventually we graduated to paintball. And then we played Normandy, which was my idea, which was bad. Which was because eventually, like, we didn't take care of the paintball guns that well. And we would get down to like, we don't have that many paintballs left. And we only have one gun that's actually working. So what we would do is there's like the creek, right? So one person would be on one side of the creek and then the other person would be on the other side of the creek. And they had to run from one tree to the other while people were shooting at them. And we called it Normandy because there was a creek there and people like thought they were storming the beaches, Bad choice. But either way.
Good times, though, I'm sure.
Oh my God.
Good times.
Dude, I still remember. All right, so there's this kid. We called him Botus, right? So Botus was awesome. But Botus, so he was playing with us, like he was playing paintball with us one day. And I thought I'd emptied the gun, right? And I didn't know that I still had one paintball left in the chamber of the gun. And I legit because I thought it was empty and I was just going to dry fire on him. I legit put it up right next to his stomach and shot him. Right. And he had like a coat on, but dude, and he was like, I was like, there's nothing in there, you pussy. Right. And then like the next day he lifted up his shirt and it was like, oh my God, like I cracked a rib. And I was like, oh my God, that was brutal, but still pretty good. So enough yapping from me. Let's get to know our guest and the story of how he became the amazing man he is today. So let's start where you were born. 40 Fort, PA. I consider Lansdale, PA, Lansdale, Pennsylvania, the land of the free and the home of the brave. I would also associate that vernacular with 40 Fort, PA. Is that a correct assumption, Mr. Gill?
Yes, I would 100% agree with that. 44 Pennsylvania. I had a wonderful childhood. All my friends that I still have now, most of them are 44 people. So it was an unbelievable upbringing.
So here's something too that I remember running into, like as you expand in the world, that people are kind of blown away by. Like I am still really good friends with all the kids I grew up with, right? And same, like it's a few aside in prison or whatever, died, whatever it is. But most of the guys I grew up with, we're all really good friends to this day. And I remember like we would go to college and like, or like I never went to college, but some people go to college and whatever. And I remember like meeting girls and stuff, and they were saying like, "You guys have been friends since you were 7? Like, really?" And I'm like, "Yeah, isn't like to me, I know you have that, but like, I don't know. Did you ever run into that out in the real world where people were like, "What? You've been friends with someone since you were 7 and blah blah blah,"
Blows people's minds, man. It blows people's minds that you can be, when we were like 21 years old, you're like, no, I went to preschool with this guy that I'm in college with now. They're like, wait, what? Like,
yeah.
This dude's been my buddy for as long as I can honestly remember.
Dude, same. I could like, I remember like, and like, I don't know. Don't get me wrong. I wouldn't look down on people that, they didn't, but in a way I'm like, bro, like you definitely tell like, there's like a code almost where like, I think I know the code, you know the code, but dudes that aren't friends with like the boys they grew up with still, they don't know the code. And there's a code,
Yeah. Well, you just know that those guys, they're your boys. They got your back no matter what. You've known them your whole life. You know their families. You know their siblings and everybody. It's all love, man.
Ride or die, brother. Burn rubber, not soul. So, okay, let's talk. This is one thing I did want to get into. So when I was coming up, right, your bike was your horse, right? When you were a kid. Same for you guys?
All day, yeah, man. No doubt about it. You got I remember I had a sweet, sick green, like a lime green dyno bike.
Oh,
it was just, dude, it was so nice.
Dude, honestly, like I would have given all my feet to have so I still hate it to this day. That's probably why like I have a bike now that I really like paid whatever for. But when I was a kid, I had a bike that was like a no name. It wasn't a Huffy, but it was like one step above a Huffy. You don't want to be the kid with the Huffy.
Right.
But it was like one step above a Huffy. And I was so like all my friends, like I remember my one buddy had a Mongoose Villain, right? Do you remember the Mongoose Villain? Oh, dude, what a bike. It had the gyro, it had the pegs on the front and the back. Oh, the Mongoose Villain.
The Mongoose was the Rolls Royce, man. And the dyno, it was like the Mongoose dyno rivalry that you had. But the Mongoose was the gold standard.
Oh, yeah. Yep. Dude. And then Haro was like the Mercedes. Oh, yeah, for sure. But dude, Mongoose, like as I remember, a couple buddies had a Mongoose Menace, and like my other buddy had a Mongoose Villain. I had a buddy who had a Haro Zippo. What a name for a bike, a Zippo, right? But these things were like killer bikes, and I was stuck with I don't even say the name. We called it. Oh, this is a bad thing. We'll just call it the Roo. But yeah, not the choicest bike, but better than a Huffy. But either way, dude, fucking, oh my God. I remember, so there's like, and I almost bought it right now because I remember looking up bikes, but you had your Mongooses, you had your Haros, you had your Dynos, right? There was another big one that I'm missing, like GT. You had your GTs that were big, right? But I remember this one kid in our neighborhood, he had an Elf. Did you ever see an Elf bike?
I don't think so.
Dude, this shit was like, this is the fucking Like, there's Ferrari, Mercedes, whatever. This shit is like a McLaren on steroids, this fucking bike. And Elf. I remember this kid had this bike. I was like, damn, like that's the bike of bikes right there. Couldn't steal it from him because he was a tough kid, but still not a bad bike. So, all
And
right.
a terrible name for a bike, though, too. Like the Elf. I just feel like it doesn't give it justice.
But like maybe I'm pretty sure it was the Elf. But so hopefully it's the right name. But the Elf, right? It was like chrome with like electric blue. You know what I mean? And it was like lightning fast. Oh my God. Super cool. And then you jump. So, okay. I remember when I was a kid, there was different kids that would go to the bike jumps, right? There was the kids that were doing the bike jumps that were fucking psychos, right? That were like going crazy on them, right? Those kids are nuts. Then there's the kids that would talk shit about it, right? But would never do it. And then there's the kids that would just hang out and do it like once or twice. I was definitely a once or twice hanger outer guy. And I wasn't the psychos,
Yeah,
what are you?
Same. Once or twice guy, take it in, try to look cool on my bike, throw my 8 balls on there, my chromies, my donuts. Style profile like Ric Flair, and then just call it a day. Go through it once.
Yeah, not gonna lie. When I have a Trek Marlin 5 now, beautiful bike. I bought it. It's murdered out, black on black, right?
So nice.
And you'll be assured the first accessory I bought this bike were chromies, right? And they're like black, gunmetal chromies, whatever. But so we would always steal chromies off of cars, right? Same? You're doing the same thing?
Yep.
8 balls were a staple. The dice were big, right? The dice were huge. Oh my God.
Yeah, dice, 8 balls, chromies. I mean, if you were over at 44 Park, you have to protect your neck because somebody was coming for your goods.
Dude, we would keep ours in our shoes when we went to the pool.
Yep, smart.
You didn't have a choice. I know what. No one's taking my chromies, pal. God. Man, I remember I did get my bike stolen one time. Oof, that was brutal. I had take my dad to this kid's house to get it back. In my mind, I was like, Dad, this bike kind of sucks. Maybe let's pretend we didn't find it, huh? And let's get another one. But that didn't happen. He went over and he got the bike. Yeah, he got it. But okay, so growing up in the mean streets of 40 Fort, having some fun, living life the Sandlot way, I would say, kind of like us. So when I was coming up, and I think you're the same way, gangs were very much a part of culture, right? Like, even if you go back, like, we were reading The Outsiders in school, didn't read it, watched the movie a bunch, loved that, right?
Pony Boy, Dallas, Johnny, Cherry, Soda Pop, Daryl, 2-Bit, Steve, Bob. S.E. Hinton's classic novel comes to the screen, capturing all the intensity, all the excitement, all the emotions of youth. The Outsiders, directed by Francis Coppola.
Right away, Greaser.
Sure.
Yeah, totally.
Sure.
No way you're a soc. You're not a soc. So, but even then, like, you had, like, the East Coast, West Coast, and the Bloods and the Crips and all that stuff coming up. So for us, gangs were definitely something we want to be a part of, right? So when I was really young, our gang was called the Bad Boys on the Block, right? And then we grew up from the Bad Boys on the Block. Then we were the Bulldogs, right? And then after the Bulldogs, I think it was like the Creekside Kids. Then we went from the Creekside Kids to the Borough Boys, right? Then after somewhere around there, we became the Confederation of 4th Street Park Natives. So did you guys have a gang or anything that you would associate the hooligans of 40 Fort with?
Yeah, we didn't have like a name or a gang or anything like that, but we definitely rolled deep. And I know for a fact that the Green Lightning Posse was a 40 Fort gang well before our time. Yeah.
Now that's a fucking name.
That's pretty sweet.
Green Lightning Posse.
Yes.
Damn. When you were at the jumps when you were in the woods, like doing the bike jumps and stuff, did you ever see anything vicious happen? I saw a kid get fucked up one time.
Yeah.
He just
this is an incredible story. We knew this guy.
Oh, okay.
He was going off a jump and he hit his nutsack and pretty vicious injury.
Dude, that's the worst injury. That is number one.
Yes.
I would rather lose my head than have that happen. So wait, he hit his fucking ball.
His bag.
He hit the bag. What, he hit it on like the seat or something?
Yeah, off the seat.
Oh, like the front part? Oh.
Yeah, it was a brutal injury.
Oh, God. Oh, God. Even thinking about that. Oh, did you know I learned this? Here's an interesting fact. So talking to the guys at the bike shop, right? And one thing he said was that the one guy who does like bike part sales came in, and when the pandemic happened, there was like a mad rush on bikes, right? And the guy who said it, he's like, he's been in the bike business since however long. He said he hasn't seen a rush like this, right? The only other time he saw a bike rush like this was when they had the gasoline thing in the 70s during the Carter administration. I was like, yeah, that makes sense. But another thing he said is that, do you remember bikes with banana seats?
Oh, yeah.
Banana seats are illegal. So the seat itself was outlawed. And the reason is because dudes were riding the bike. Say you hit a jump or something and you're sliding right down that seat, and good night, Irene. You went from a baritone to a soprano right fucking away. I'll tell you that, pal. You know, you're hitting a high note after that one.
You better believe it, buddy.
Oh, man, dude. Brutal. So, you know, I know for us, like, say you like, there's no cell phones or anything back then, and instant messenger didn't come until later. But like, say in the summer, you wake up, right? You get on your bike and you're just riding around. Like, maybe you'll check a buddy's house. But if you see a house that has bikes parked out on the front lawn, it's just, you know, that's where the crew's at, right?
No doubt, man. That was always the sign. The bikes scattered on the front yard. You knew that's where your boys were at.
Oh, miss those days, man. Miss those days.
Me too, buddy.
Yeah, how about it? To be a kid. And you don't see that anymore, though. No biker gangs anymore.
No. I mean, it's crazy. It's crazy. I know they use it for transportation, but I don't even actually know what they do anymore, to be honest with you. Yeah. I rarely see bikes.
Not if it's not electric, you know? Jeez.
Yeah.
But you're not well, it's not, to be fair, like, you know, Creed, remember in Creed, the movie Creed, they had like that scene where the kids are riding the bikes and the dirt bikes and all that stuff, right? They have that around here. Like, you'll see some like bikes like that, like kids being a pain in the ass, you know? But as far as like, you know, biker gangs like we had when we were kids, they're non-existent.
Everybody just gets dropped off now. Like we would just leave in the morning, and then that was it. Like we would have to, like, we had bells that rang on the church up the street from me at the end of my street, and that's what told you it was time to go home. They would run at like 6 o'clock and 10 o'clock. So you'd either have to be a 6 o'clock or 10 o'clock. That was it. Yeah,
ours was when the street lights came on. That was ours.
That was another good one. Yep.
That was staple. But dude, that's like you would leave the house, right? Maybe you'd stop back for a meal or whatever you would eat at somebody's house or the pool or wherever the hell you went. Did you guys have a public pool?
We did. Yeah, we had a 40-foot pool.
Oh, best thing ever.
Yeah.
Best thing. Do you have a message or a story inside of you that you've been waiting to tell? Have you always dreamed of writing a book, but are intimidated by the complexities of the book publishing world? Perhaps you want to use a book to launch your public speaking or consulting career. If so, please reach out to Scott and Bell Publishing, located right here in beautiful Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Scott and Bell Publishing handle all genres and authors with all experience levels. Scott and Bell Publishing gives authors 100% creative freedom and a higher royalty split. They can be found at www.skotbell.com. That's www.s as in Sam, K as in Kite, O as in October, T as in Tom, B as in Boy, E as in Edward, L as in Larry, L as in Larry.com. That's Scott and Bell Publishing, where the authors go. So, all right. So let's stop reminiscing and let's get to the nitty gritty. So when we were talking, you went to Catholic school originally, but you kicked that habit in third grade, right?
Correct.
Then you went to public school. Then you went all the way through public school in what's the Wyoming Valley School District, I guess, right?
Yep, Wyoming Valley West. Yep.
Cool. And then so going through there, right? You did, elementary, middle school, high school, and then you basketball player. Am I correct?
That's correct. Yep. High school basketball, middle school basketball. Played basketball my whole life.
So I'm not gonna lie, right? I feel like each school, like there's different schools, have like their bigger sports, right? Obviously, it's Pennsylvania. Football is massive, right? But outside of the inner city, basketball really isn't. Well, maybe not king, but I feel like wrestling is a lot bigger at some schools than basketball would be. And I'm pretty sure from what I've heard, at least I've never witnessed it, wrestling at Wyoming Valley West was a big deal, right?
Huge deal.
Yeah.
Yeah, we had some really good wrestlers come through here, and then they went on to have great careers and were well known and feared, and it was awesome. Yeah, we had some great wrestlers come through Valley West.
So that being said, you played basketball, right? And as being a former wrestler myself, we always kind of shit on the basketball team, right? Where like we were making fun of them and like, like we always kind of like obviously like no one's getting fights, but we were always like we thought we were the better winter sport, you know what I mean? And like we would have a good team and their team would suck and we would make fun of them and things like that. Is there anything like that going on at your school as well? Being like you would be on the other end of that, right?
Right. Yeah. So we were the basketball players. We always, I mean, here the wrestlers have their own like space, so they only wrestle at the high school for their meets. So we didn't really get to see them a lot, but I'm sure 100% that they thought that they were a lot tougher.
Back it up. They have like their own like building.
Yeah, so like the middle school here is where they would practice. They have like a wrestling room at the middle school, and we would always practice at the high school. So we didn't intermingle much with them.
Did the middle school used to be the high school like years and years ago?
Okay. Yep, 100%. Yep.
Yeah. Same thing around here. They had a wrestling room the year after I left at my school. But okay. So all right. So you guys weren't like, talking shit and all this stuff. Cause I remember we would have like morning practice before school. And I remember like the baseball team would start spring training and like our coach would open up the doors and we would like yell and sing stuff at the team saying like, you sucked it, like all this stuff, like baseball's for bitches, you know what I mean? Like stuff like that. Right. So, but like our coach would openly like that. Same thing with basketball where like we would practice, would be on the balcony and they would be in like the court. And same thing, we would be like razzing them, like during breaks and our coaches would be like all about it, So, all right. So you guys didn't have much interaction or hazing like that, but basketball at your school, big deal or what?
Yeah, I mean it's a pretty big deal around here. People love basketball. We had some like Bob Sura came through. We had some really good players at Valley West. It was a big deal. We had some good rivalries with like Hazleton and Russ Kanzler. He was a good player. He ended up playing baseball, but he was a good basketball player too. So yeah, people loved it. Bishop O'Reilly won the state title when I was in high school. So it was pretty solid.
Yeah, so that's another thing. I see because I remember talking to like Mike and Byrne and them saying how basketball is a big deal up there. So, but I have a feeling like in an area like that in the valley itself is kind of like when you're in there, right? Like you know what I mean. You're not leaving. Like there's only 2 roads in and out, right? When you get into the valley. So like when you're there, you're there. So the people that live there, I feel like a main high school sport like a basketball game is a big attraction for the community. So I'm assuming like like you guys would have a big presence at your basketball game. Is that right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, if you caught the right matchup on the right day, like whether it was like the Wilkes-Barre inner city schools playing or like big public schools or even like the Catholic schools, like people that went to those schools mostly stayed around here, built a life. So they would come and check it out, see how the team's doing and stuff like that. So yeah, the community is definitely behind sports around here, no doubt about it.
Oh, that's pretty cool. See, that's a cool thing. I think for football and stuff, and like at where I went, North Penn, it's kind of like the same thing. But so I know, and I learned this the hard way when I first met Byrne because Byrne would say he's from 44, which is near Wilkes-Barre. And then automatically I would say, oh, my dad's from Scranton. You guys are from, Scranton, right? So I know that Wilkes-Barre and 44 kind of get shit on by people. I guess people always being like, oh, if you're from Wilkes-Barre and 44th, then you must know everything about Scranton, right? You know what I mean? So I remember when Byrne, I would like first meeting Byrne, I had brought up like, oh yeah, he lives in Scranton. And Byrne would be like, no, I do not. I am not from Scranton. I am from 44, Pennsylvania. Get it goddamn right. I was like, whoa, all right, cool. So is that kind of the same thing? Would you say there's like a rivalry, or it's just like, hey, they're them, we're us, shove it?
Yeah, I think a little bit of a rivalry. It's not that like so. Wilkes-Barre and Scranton are probably like 15, 20 minutes away, so it's not like you have a lot of interaction. Like I don't go to Scranton very often at all. You know what I mean? I think it's probably similar to them. It's kind of like your own two things, but you have to go through that. Where are you from? Oh, northeastern Pennsylvania. Where? And you're like 44. Nobody has any idea. So then you're like, okay, Wilkes-Barre. And then maybe some people know. And then you have to go, if they don't know Wilkes-Barre, you're like, okay, Scranton. And then people mostly, at that point, they have a general idea. But you have to go through that. So I think that burns, that burns a little bit.
Burns you right where you chafe, pal. I tell you. That's a real kick in the ganache, man. So, plus two, like, I don't know. My dad's from Scranton, and there's a place that we went there, Mayog Park, right? Nayog Park, maybe. And they have the falls there. Bro, not going to lie, I remember going there as a kid thinking Scranton was like a big place. And then I went there like years ago, and I'm like, this is a little ass town. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love Scranton, but it's definitely not a thriving metropolis like I used to think it was. But but that being said, I mean, I'm from Lansdale. That's not a thriving metropolis either. But
the Electric City, Scranton, the Electric City, man.
Hey, I'm sure Scranton is more known for The Office than anything else it'll ever be known for. Now.
1,000,000%.
Yeah. So, which is great. Good for them. Hey, good for Scranton. Why not? Good for Scranton. Sure. But that being said, you are the descendant of coal miners, all
Correct.
of you, right? Thus, the same as myself. And the coal miners themselves love to kick back a few, right? So let's get to it. After high school, right? You moved down to Temple, and not originally you drank because you were underage, but once you turned of legal age to drink, you would consume a beverage here or there. Is that correct?
That is true. Yes. Once I was of legal drinking age, I certainly consumed a few here or there.
Yep, and we would consume some together at times. So after you're done high school basketball, did you do anything in college, like sports or anything like that?
The closest I ever got to doing anything sports related, we had an intramural basketball team at Temple, and we fared pretty well. But I got mono. We went all the way to the championships. It was like there was like an A group and a B group. We were obviously in the B group because the A group was like real awesome people. So we were in the B group, but we were pretty good. We made it all the way to the championship game, and I got mono, so I was unable to participate.
Oh God! Yeah. I mean,
really
how'd you get the mono though?
Right. Yeah. They say it's the kissing disease, Matt.
That's what they say, pal. That's what the theory's out there, bud. So, real quick, at this time as well, I was still fighting around this time, and I believe you came to my fight in Conshohocken where I lost.
I did. I did come to that. Yeah, I did see I saw the fight. You did lose, but it was a good. I remember I told you, I was like, listen, you got a couple good shots, and you were like, dude, don't tell me that. You're mad. You're mad that you took me out. I was trying to be like, hey man, you got some good shots, and it was a good fight. And you're like, no, I didn't do what I needed to.
Yeah, it's always frustrating. I mean, when it comes to like basketball and stuff, and I mean, I guess wrestling is the same way because it's like 1-on-1, but fighting is. When it's like a boxing match, I don't know. It is different, but in the same way, you're like you just replay it all the time in your head and stuff. But either way,
sure. Well, I know how hard you work too. You put in a ton of work, and you did so much to do it. And I'll tell you what, you were probably a couple seconds from knocking that dude out too. You cleaned him with a right, and it looked like. But
I see it in my dreams often, my man. I see it in my dreams where it's like. I had him the way I did it is that, and like I remember after the fight we were getting interviewed, and the interview because I kind of wrecked him on that shot, and like it busted like the bottom of his nose and his face, and then the interviewer even says like this guy won, and I'm like, hey, don't even get me started. He did put me down on the canvas, but I beat the 8 count and got right back up, so he didn't put me down that long, but it was because either way. But okay, but yeah, you're right. I had him against the ropes, and I bumped him with my left shoulder, and I came with the right. And every time I'm like, God, I just should have kept going, but whatever. It was also like in the 3rd round, like late in the fight. And I remember Steve Cunningham was there. I got to meet him. God, he's a stud. Love Steve Cunningham. Okay, so let's move on. All right, we got the school bullshit out of the way. I want to get to the nitty gritty. Why we're here, we're going over some work history. So
Let's do it.
what was, and I'm not talking, shoveling some snow or mowing your neighbor's lawn every 4th Friday for $10. What was your first paying job, real job?
Yeah, so my first paying job, I was, I think I was like a junior or senior in high school, and I started working at the housing authority for the county. And I worked in
so this would be like the Wyoming Valley West Housing Authority,
No, this would be like the Luzerne County Housing Authority.
Oh,
the whole county. Yeah, so that's
damn.
Wilkes-Barre, Hazleton, everybody involved in. It's a pretty big county, mass-wise.
Yeah.
So that's where I started, and I was I worked in the garage with the mechanic guy. Great name, Rich Chihuahua. What a name! What a name!
Yes, great.
It was Rich Chihuahua, his son, and me. That was
Rich Chihuahua, nice Irish guy.
This guy he grinded. That guy grinded. He was awesome. He worked super hard. He was miserable though.
But those guys are the best though. Like when you're with someone like, because honestly, they're the best. I feel like I'm that way because I'm miserable. But what makes me most angry is that I'm putting in this amount of work. If they might not be as good. Not everyone's the same, but you need to put in the same amount of work. And if you don't, that's what pisses me off, right? If you're like trying to skate, is that kind of what he was like?
That was exactly how he was, man. That was exactly how he was. This guy worked harder than anybody. I mean, they had trucks from like the 1970s that this guy was like running, like keeping running. So they treated them horrendously. So they would bring him in, and he would have to do all this stuff. So I respected him a ton. He, once I worked with him and helped him out, he was always great to me. He loved me. He just hated like the other summer workers because they would trash his trucks that he worked all his, so hard to.
He was in their lazy shits that you got off on the daddy's coattail. So, all right, but hold on, let's backtrack a little. So, how did you get this job?
So it was basically like they were just looking for like dudes that were willing to come in. It was like we knew like, Luzerne County, listen, there's people. Right. And it was all like my friends that were working there, and so that's how I got the job.
Who do you contact to get a job at the housing authority of the county? Do you have to go through like the courthouse or something?
I think it's like I think they have like an executive director. So they would be under that umbrella, but they're their own like part of the county. So it'd be like the courts, the housing authority, I
wonder if they would fall under, you weren't doing like parks or anything. It was all homes. So right. I wonder who you would fall under. Housing, I guess, housing and development part of the.
Yeah, I think it's like its own thing. So so I just applied for it, and they were looking for people during the summer. I think he started in like May, and he worked pretty much till September, because that's when you had to like maintain all the, cut the grass, maintain all the properties, and do all that stuff.
So these are government funded houses, right?
Correct.
Housing
yeah.
Yep. Okay. So I've been to the illustrious and beautiful Wyoming Valley. It is a valley. There are mountains on each side of it. Were these like houses like in the backwoods? Because like from what I understand, like you're in the bottom of the valley and it's like a bowl, and it's almost like a stadium where in the bottom it's more densely populated, but then as you go up the bowl, it's less and less populated. Is that a correct assumption?
Yeah, that's right. That'd be correct. Yep.
So when you get to the tippy top of the bowl, you're running into some backwoods sons of guns living in some trailers on the side of a mountain. Is that the kind of schmutz you were dealing with?
So you would probably you would rarely get like some of that. Basically, what it would be we have a very elderly community around here, so it'd be those high rises that would be like 100 or so apartments. Like that, so you'd have to like cut the grass for that and do their maintenance and then but there was also like single houses too that you would go to and they would be like really
trash,
rough shape. Yeah, just brutal.
Would you ever get like cars in the front lawn and stuff like that?
Oh, 100%, 100%, man. Yeah, there. You saw.
And then you're bringing that into the guy to take care of, or what?
Yeah, we didn't take care of those cars, but you would just be like, all right, we got to cut this guy's grass, so we got to like tell him like he's got to move his 1974 beat up Chevette
yeah.
off the lawn so we can cut it.
What if he doesn't move it? What like?
Yeah, you just cut around it and be like, whatever.
Okay. But it's not like a legal mandate that you could throw at him like you're going to get a fine if you don't move the shit heap out of the front yard of this housing project.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you might be able to do that. We just didn't care enough to actually we'd be like, we're just gonna like weed whack around and then call it a day,
Yeah, if you can live with it, we can live with it, kind of thing.
Exactly.
So what kind of things were they teaching you at this job?
So mostly what I did was
this just the summer?
It was just the summer. Yeah, it was just this was like 4 months, and then I would go to school. Then I would go to college, and then I would rinse and repeat every summer that I was at Temple as well.
Okay, so cool. Sorry to interrupt. So what were you learning?
So what I did was I would just help him I would detail the cars, wash the cars, vacuum them out. If anything that he needed, I would vacuum his office. I would. The worst thing that I ever had to do was it would be like 100 degrees mid-July, and they'd have to get the plows. The plows, because they did it for the winter, they would plow it. So these plows were in just horrendous shape, rusted all the way through. Yeah. So he would give me a hand sander, goggles, and a mask, and I would have to sand off all the rust on these plows.
Oh my gosh.
And, dude, I looked like I walked out. You talked about the coal mines earlier. It looked like I was working the mines. I was just black from all the soot and all the rust. And then I would paint them, prime them, and get them back out there.
When you drive by like a municipal building and you see like the shit equipment sitting out there all rusted, that's not just old. That's shit that they use and they just clean them and refurbish them every season.
Yeah, exactly.
No shit. So I thought that was just like an antique they kept around.
Yeah, you would see them. You're like, there's no chance that this thing's usable. But thankfully I was around and I would do it, Matt. Then they could use them once I was done with them. Good as new. Man. They
put Nick Gill to the task. That shit's coming out smooth as a baby's ass. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, and that's how I gained the respect of this guy, because I wouldn't really complain or anything, and it was a give and take. Like then some days, if I was not feeling it, he would let me buzz off for a while, and he wouldn't bother me. But so I respected him for that.
No, that's good. Like honestly, that's how I kind of like to do it. Where it's like, look, if I need a job done, I need to be able to depend on you. But if I don't have to be up your ass about doing the job, we're gonna get along fine. If you're 20 questions every 2 seconds because you can't think for yourself, you're going to get on my fucking nerves. Tell you that right now. But,
100%. 100%. That was that guy.
Yeah. If you can figure it the fuck out and do it and it's done right, hey, if you mess up and I didn't tell you to do it this way, that's on me. Right. But if you can't, that's nice. So, all right. So good. So you got some really good, like hands-on, like working with your hands kind of skills of like using the sander, painting. And that's just one of the jobs. Did he teach you how like to rebuild any of the automobiles or anything like that? Or like, changing oils, or what were you doing there? Anything?
So I was always curious about that stuff because I was like, this actually could be helpful, but it was too much of like, it would have been too hard for him in such a short time to like teach me actually to like get under the hood and start like messing around. So I didn't really get too far into like the actual mechanical work. I was just more of to help him, do the small stuff while he, focused on the big stuff.
Is that something that you're interested in? Like
no, I just thought it would be cool when I was like 18. I was like, if I know how to do this, maybe that would help me later on.
No, dude. No,
I couldn't change an oil now. I have I learned no actual,
Dude,
under the hood stuff.
I was talking about this with one of our guests that we had on here, and I quoted a comedian. His name's Robert Kelly. I don't know if you ever heard of him, Bobby Kelly, but he's like a comedian from Boston. But he has a saying that they're not making men anymore; they're making dudes. So like my buddy's dad is a master carpenter, right? He can do anything. And my buddy learned from him, and he can like. He bought a house. He redid the whole damn thing. Did it all himself. Didn't have to do anything, right? That's a fucking man, right? If you or me, if something breaks or we need something done, we have to call a man to come do that, right? If they need us to do anything, it's like we got tape, like we're just, that's it. That was verbatim stolen from Robert Kelly, FYI. But he's
an amazing observation. And super true. This dude that I worked with, that guy was a man. That guy was he was a man. I was
Respect.
a dude.
Yeah, we're all dudes, bro. There's like a few men left. I have a buddy who's an electrician. He's kind of a man, but kind of not. But is in a way he is. Like, yeah. So, all right. So nice. So you're at the housing authority dealing with the abandoned cars and all that good stuff while you're going through the later years of high school and all the way through college. So you graduate college, right? What's the first job you get after? What'd you major in?
So I was a communications major with journalism, actual, like, I guess, focus, minor? I guess how they say, okay. Like a focus in journalism.
Communications encompasses a lot of things when people say that that's their major.
Right. It's like that Simpsons, like communications, it's a phony major. Like that's pretty much, you have to, yeah. So I dialed in on, and what a job by me. Like, Nick, way to read the room. Like, I'm going to be a sports writer. Like, oh, that business is dead. So, good job.
Well, I mean, honestly, it's like, like I had a teacher who would say writing is just frozen speech, right? Like writing is just what you would say. So you're very good verbally, and instead of writing it down, you could just say it, right? Like that's not going anywhere. If anything, that is growing, And I remember I would read your columns and your posts on Facebook, especially like when you were working. Are we allowed to say you worked for Oakland when they were the Raiders?
Yep.
Yeah.
Sure.
When you were doing that for Oakland, you did great stuff. You would cover every player and prospects, but like you would have to cover them. Like the Super Bowl would end, right? They would have like the OTAs or whatever, and like the spring training and stuff, but then nothing. And you had to every day, right? Like that's a fucking challenge. Being able to write an article about a team every day who at the time was not good.
I think they won like I think I covered for like 4 or 5 years. I think they won like 11 games. They were putrid. But it was awesome experience. But you're right. Like those in like March, you're like, I have not, like what can I possibly say? Like they just finished, the Super Bowl ended a month ago and the Raiders were 3-13. Like they're not good. People that read about the Raiders.
Yeah. I mean, people are honestly, oh man, looking back, had we been smarter, if we would have started to record you verbalizing those, that's the start of it. Because if it's like a minute video, people would listen to that, right?
100%, dude. That's so true. And that's what it kind of progressed to. And what I would do is I would just think of like creative ideas. Like when I was covering the Raiders, I'd be like, all right, it's April or like March or whatever. So I'd do like a series. I'd be like, here's what they have at every single position. So I'm just going to break that down. Like, is there a need at center? Like, I'll go center, right guard, left guard. Like, I'll just do every position because, you got something that day then at least. And you could span that out for like a month.
Yeah. And how many – and also, too, like if you did like – you would do like a player breakdown, too, sometimes. And it's like how many players do they have on the team? Yeah. Right. So that covers, if it's one a day, that at least gets you 100 days, right? Because what is it, 800 players and coaches and all that?
Right, and then you would mix in, like, then the draft would come, so then you'd have material for another few weeks and stuff like that. So thankfully, as long as you got creative, you can make it work. I wouldn't change doing that for anything. I had so much fun doing that.
I used to shit on sports radio, right? But then, like, there would be times where I'm thinking, like, there is legit nothing to cover. You know what I mean? Like, that job is tough, sports radio. Thank God
Yeah,
we just talk to people who work.
right. Yeah, if you're not in season trying to like scrap something together for like 3 hours, brutal.
Dude, I couldn't even. Oh my gosh! But hey, it is what it is. Still good. Still good. Some things will be better than others. But so okay. So after you graduated, so were you writing for the Raiders right after you graduated, or where were you writing?
No, so my first stop was our local newspaper in Wilkes-Barre. I became a sports correspondent, so I would go out and mostly it was like football, like Friday night football. There'd be like 10 games. You know, they have only a staff of like 7 people, so they needed people to help them out, go to the games, and write a story, keep the stats, and all that. So that was my first. That was my first job. Right when I got done, I was like, all right, well, I'm going to put this into practice. And when I went for my interview, this is great. This guy, I met with the editor, and I'm like, yeah, I'm interested in doing this. I'd love to do it. I have a really good, background in journalism. I just graduated, love an opportunity to do it. So he was like,
Yeah.
all right, yeah, sounds great. He's like, but so the time comes, first game. This guy calls me. He's like, I just want you to know that the last guy that did this quit at halftime. I guess he got like freaked out and got overwhelmed and he bailed at half. So my first game, I got to halftime and I called my editor and I was like, listen, man, I made it to halftime. So there you go. Did better than the other guy. But it was great. I loved it. I loved it, man. You'd go there, you'd it's high school, so it's not like college or pro. Yeah. Like you take all your own stats. I used to have a running diary. Like I cover football, I'd go 1st and 10 at the 35, number 34 for 5 yards, 2nd and 5 at the 40, and I would keep the running diary the whole time. I would do all my stats. So it was a lot of work.
That's what I'm interested in. So what is the formula that you would use to cover? So you have like a notebook, right?
Right.
So what you have on one side, you'll put the one team and the other side, you'll put the other, or you'll just say like, let's say it's Wyoming Valley's possession offense, Bloom. And you would say like, would you just record the offense or you like, I guess if there was a defensive, like they made a defensive play, you would record a sack for a loss or something like that. Right. Or exactly. How would you do it?
I would have like a sheet that they would make for us, which would be like passing, rushing, receiving. So you would write the number and the kid's name in there. And then I would keep a running diary of every play that happened. So 1st down, 2nd down, 3rd down. If there was an interception, I would keep that in my notes. And then I would tally it all. I tallied at halftime, and then I would tally it at the end of the game so I could put together the box score. But I would literally record every single play that happened.
Dude, how pissed were you then if you're like writing this stuff? And I'm assuming, I don't know if you're like me, but I always start too big with writing and then I run out of space at the end. Right. So how pissed were you if you write down, okay, 2nd and 5, rush for 5 yards, and you wrote it down and then you see, oh, this fucker threw a flag on there. Now I gotta erase it and cross it out and all that. Like, must have drove you nuts. Right.
Super frustrating. That'd be super frustrating. And then the other thing would always be like, you'd get teams that would have like white jerseys and yellow numbers, and it would be like raining. You're like, I have no idea. I have zero idea who just ran that football. No idea.
Did you ever see like I remember so one of my best buddies, his dad owns a production company, and he got the contract to tape the PCL, which is the Philadelphia Catholic League, in their football, right? So he would tape the PCL, and I remember I worked a couple games, and one of them, you would see like there's obviously a size difference in some of these kids, and like you would see a kid who might be smaller but he's quick, right? And every once in a while you'd see like a smaller quick kid that was just like a missile that would like knock the shit out of some big ass kid that was just like some fucking doofus. You know what I mean? Did you ever see any like great hits or anything like? I'm sure you saw some great shit, right?
Oh yeah, man. There was always some fun stuff. So I was in a good spot where like around here, like we would get like, there'd be some D1 fanfare. So like I would go to games and cover them, and you get to see like guys that went to like Oklahoma or Penn State or UConn. Shit. So like and then you would see like the dudes that you were talking about that were just like awesome high school players, undersized, just the dudes that grinded. And, they would always, if you were watching them, they would stand out.
They didn't have the height and the
right. They didn't have the
yeah.
measurables to ever do anything, but they were excellent high school players.
Dude, I remember. So I think it was West Catholic versus Roman, right? And it was like this thing. It was called like the Wildwood Bowl or something like that, where they would play a game down in Wildwood. And I remember there was this kid. It was like this white dude who was like tree trunk legs. He was probably like 5'5", right? And he was just and like he was leading with his head, and he was just like a freaking tank. He played linebacker. He was smoking dudes, right? Like just crushing them. But I was like, it sucks. Like this kid's 5'5", 5'6", a tank, legs the size of sequoias, and he's out there just smoking dudes that are like, big and whatever. But it sucks. Like this guy will never move on to the next level just because of his size. Where it's like, you know what I mean? Like if he was faster, but still 5'6", 5'7", it's not doing it, man. Like I remember I met like Lito Shepherd and Sheldon Brown, and they were both short. I'm like 5'10" and a quarter, and they were both a little shorter than me, but they were also like ultra athletic and faster than the wind blows. And Sheldon Brown was fucking incredible. But like, like those guys are ultra athletic, but they weren't like they no way and they knew in their minds there's no way they could ever play linebacker. You know what I mean? So like to see like those kind of kids, like Shake actually, and he's, too modest to say it, but Shake was actually one of those kids where Shake's like 5'7", 5'8", and he was a starting linebacker and captain of his football team. And he went to North Penn, which is a really good football school. So he was one of those kids out there, like smart, knew the game, but also could like lay a hit. You know what I mean? All right. So you're covering these guys. If you had like a special player that you knew, like this is D1 quality talent, did you have like a different way you would record him, or would you record him separately, or what would you do?
Yeah, so what I would do is at the end of those games, like he would be the first person, he or she would be the first people that I would immediately get their stats together. Like I need to know, how many yards, how many touchdowns this person had, or how whatever, points, whatever it was, whatever the case may have been in whatever sport it was. So yeah, that would always be like, and then that would be your first time, like you would, right when the game ends, that's the person you're going to for the quote. Like that's the first person that you want to talk to, get their feelings on the game. So I'd always do the coach, and I was always try to do whoever was the standout in the game.
Yeah.
Like those were the two people that you always wanted for your article.
And you're seeing kids like 5 touchdowns, 400 yards.
Oh yeah. Right.
Really?
No. That's not like, I think probably would say, yeah, people would go for like 305 touchdowns, something like that.
Jesus. Because there's like, to be fair, there's sometimes where it's like a kid's playing, like they're playing, like some shit school, you know what I mean? And like they have an all-star on this team, and the team's got a decent line or whatever, and they just beat the pants off of this team, and this kid just goes off. Like those games, you're just like feel bad for the other team. You know what I mean? Did you ever too like one of the things down here, and I don't know if they still have it down in Lansdale, they used to, in like Montgomery County, they used to have this thing called the Day of the Hog, where they would get like all the top offensive and defensive linemen in the county, and they would have them like do different contests, like flip tires and bench press and like hammer throw, I think, and like a pie eating contest. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know but did you ever interview, like, I know like you always see like the, running backs, wide receivers, quarterbacks, like all those guys. Did you ever get any like D1 linemen coming through that you would try to grab and stuff like that?
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. We had a couple. I think we had a kid go to Florida that I was around. Like we had, there was some beefcakes that were doing some work.
You got some big hosses up there, man. You got some barrel-chested sons of coal miners up there. I always remember Byrne tells a story about Danny Gallagher's brother, who's like a freaking monster, apparently. Right? He played at Penn State. Pfft, could you imagine? That's one of the things, like, I would love to get like, oh gosh, like to be like in a D1 like major program like that. Like the stories that like the royalty they get treated like, and the stories they must get. I would love to like just be there for like a week and see what it's like. You know?
You're just getting treated so well, man. Like everything, they're spending millions and millions of dollars on, the facilities, and it's got to be so sweet.
And not on the players. Tell you
No.
that. They're like they might spend $1 million on the players, but they're not paying them $1 million, At least that not on the books. All right.
Yeah.
So let's keep it going. So it says here when you were writing and covering sports, and that was for can we say the name of the paper?
Yeah, the Citizen's Voice was the paper in Wilkes-Barre.
Very cool. So the next job I have here, was this at the same time you're at the Citizen's Voice, or was this after?
So that was after.
Okay, so, and I'm very interested to hear about this. Were you living in Philly at the time?
Correct.
Because
yep.
it says here you worked for UPS at the airport. Is that correct?
Correct. So yeah, I moved back to Philly, and I was doing the Raiders thing that we were talking about before. So I was writing for the blog, but it obviously takes some time to monetize that. So I had to pick up some extra work. So I got a job at UPS at the airport, loading packages, like huge pallets of packages onto the 747.
Golly.
And I am not a heights guy. And we have to like take this like elevator type thing up to like go to the plane. And I hated it so much, man. I used to hug that rail for dear life.
Really? So wait. So so you're at the airport. Were you like loading planes?
Yeah. So there would be like probably like 6 or 7 people in every, like you'd have a group of people in your gang there, and you would drive around in like a old UPS truck that was pimped out to take you around the airport. So you would just go from one plane to the other. They would bring these they looked like snow globes, but they were plastic and they were huge.
Yeah.
And that's what they packed all the packages into. So they would take them over, they'd bring them on this elevator, they'd take them all the way up to the opening in the plane, you'd pull it off, and you'd load it up. I think it was like 24 or 25 pallets per plane. And they were heavy.
Oh, my gosh.
Yep. And it was like December. It was cold. I mean, it was definitely one of those where you were.
The airport seems like one of those places where it's very, very particular to work at. Right?
Yeah, you have to pass all kinds of background checks and go through all kinds of security checkpoints just to get there. I think we started at like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. So you'd be getting up at like 2:30, getting to the airport, going through your security checks, just to go to work then.
How many days a week did you work there?
It was 5 days a week, and then sometimes once it got toward like the peak season, which would be like around the holidays and Thanksgiving and stuff like that, then you would do like 12-hour days, so like 4 a.m. to 4 p.m., maybe 6 days a week. It was a grinder, man. It was an absolute grinder.
That's brutal. I bet your shoulders got some fucking meat on them from lifting all that shit, huh?
It was probably like one of the best shapes I've ever been in. It was literally just pushing and pulling and lifting and trying to be as strong as you could. And you felt like a beast when you would push something onto like, and you're like, oh man, I am a unit.
Getting that leg strength in. I always thought like, oh man, your forearm, everything. Gosh, I remember I was unemployed for I was looking for jobs, and my wife had taken me to UPS to be like an overnight. It was like a UPS facility where they stocked trucks overnight, right? And like the reason people wanted this job, and it was a big job for like ex-cons and stuff like that, is because it was part-time, but you got full-time benefits, right? Because it was like, I think it was like 11 p.m. to 4 a.m. shift or 3 a.m. shift or something like that. But you're in there and you're legit like stocking trucks. And they were telling you like, dude, this is a workout. Like you're going to come here, you're going to sweat. Like it is tough. It is a physically demanding job. And like the guy gave us the runaround. It was like a group of guys. This dude gave us a runaround of what's going on. And he's like, look, I'm going to tell you now, this is what it is. And this is how it's going to go. And if you're not in it, just no harm, no foul, but this is what it's going to be. And like 3 people are like, yeah, this ain't for me, and just left, you know? And like, he gave us like the tour, and I'm like, this is like, no way. No, like, that's a tough gig, man. Stocking trucks and loading trucks is a tough gig. Did you have, and like, were you stocking like just like, what was it, like food and stuff, or like what?
Just any package that was sent through there that had to go. I think they would go to like Germany. Like they had like their own like spot on the airport, which would just be their planes. So they probably let's say they 20 planes come in that day. So you have to load them up, and it was wild, man. It was a wild ride.
Dude.
But it's certainly demanding. Certainly demanding. You're right. And they didn't, and to their credit, they were like, listen, this is what it is. Like, it's gonna be tough.
Yeah. Jesus. Well, I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Sometimes like I don't know. I've bartended for so long, and there's so many times bartending that I would think to myself, like, my God, I just want a job where I can sit down because my knees are killing me and like all this stuff. And then, now that I'm at a job where like working in an office where I do sit down, it's like, man, I kind of miss those manual labor jobs. You know what I mean? So it's, it's always the other side of the pillow seems cooler. You know what I'm saying?
100%. But, and that's just one of those things with jobs is like, you take what you can from them. Like I got to meet a lot of cool people. It was hard work, but you know what? It always teaches you something. There's something that you could take away from that as you move forward. You were certainly like, listen, I can't do this forever.
Yeah.
That would be done. But you take what you can from it and you move on, and you think about it now. And I was like, actually, I remember it somewhat fondly. I know it was brutal at the time, but now that you've been through that, makes you a better person. Makes you.
How'd you like waking up early?
Yeah, so I would go to bed at like 7 p.m., dude. I never made it. It was like, plus like we were talking about, like it was grueling. So like I would come home, eat, and that was like, it was curtains for me. So once you adjusted to it, wasn't too bad. But there was definitely like those cold winter mornings at like 3 a.m. where you're like brushing your car off at 2:30. And you're like, want to go today.
Jesus. Oh my gosh, man. I wake up, I usually am up at like I try to be, at least, knock on wood, try to get up at like 4-ish. And dude, it is, in the summer it's definitely a lot easier. But now, like the winter time, especially you like you're probably waking up, first thing you're doing is coffee, right? Like after you like piss and all that stuff. But like, coffee is number one right away. Were you a big coffee?
I don't drink any coffee.
What the?
This is all natural, Del.
Still no coffee?
Still no coffee.
Oh my God, dude! I'll tell you what. Never drank coffee before in my life. Then I started dating a European, and I think I have it injected in my veins now. It's like coffee city. They don't fuck around when it comes to coffee.
People swear by me. I should probably I never liked it, but I also haven't tried. I don't think I've tried in like 10 years, so I should probably give it another whirl.
Dude, you'll find your niche. I'm a big fan of like I'll go like, all right, Starbucks for instance, do like a latte, I'll do like a nice iced latte with soy. Or if I'm feeling real, when I used to be wanted to get that buzz from it, I would get, I think it was called a red eye, where it was a coffee with, I think it's either 3 or 4 shots of espresso in it.
There you go. That'll get the engines going.
That puts some hair on your ass, boy. Now too. Now, the last few times, or for a while too, I was getting the nitro cold brew. That shit, they're only allowed to sell you like 2 of those a day legally. Like they ain't messing around. Nitro cold brews, that shit puts a pep in your step and your ass in the John. You know what I mean? All right. So after UPS, where do we go after that?
So when I was at UPS, I was also doing the Raiders thing, which was probably the coolest job I've ever had, other than the one that I have now. So that was like simultaneously happening. Raiders, UPS was simultaneously happening.
So hold on. So just so our listeners know how big your dick is, you were waking up at 3 a.m. to be at work, or you're waking up at 2:30?
Yeah, like 2:30, 3 o'clock to get there at 4.
So 2:30, 3 o'clock to drive from, you were living near Temple at this time, to drive from near Temple down to the Philadelphia International Airport. to
Correct.
work from 4 in the morning until sometimes 4 in the afternoon, right?
Right.
And then you would come home, then you would have to write a blog for the Oakland Raiders, and then you would eat probably and then go to sleep. Is that correct?
Yeah, it was a Gruden's grinder, man. John Gruden
So,
grinder right there.
and that was 5 days a week. Well, 7 days for the Raiders, but 5 days for UPS.
Correct. Yeah. So I would, yep, exactly like you described it. I would come home, get something to eat, and then I would be like, all right, I got to step up, see what the Raiders are up to today. I would grind out an article or two, and it was. I think though you had I think it was like Sundays and Mondays off, so it actually worked out okay schedule wise because I could watch the Raiders on Sunday and then report about the game and stuff like that.
Yeah. And you can kind of have a nice game day too, right? Like,
right, relax, hang out.
Nice. That's cool. All right. I mean, yeah, I had a couple game days with you. Had some fun.
Of course, man. Those were always those football Sundays, man, were the best. They're the best.
Dude, I really do miss those times where when we were in our 20s and we would hang out and party and just drinking and fucking joking around and just having a good old time, man. I cannot tell you how much I honestly now, man, I don't I can't drink, I can, but it's it beats the shit out of me every time I do, and I fucking hate it because I used to love it.
100%, dude. You're never gonna get we'll never get those back where we were all kind of in the same spot in life, all just hanging out, BSing, watching, drinking, joking. Dude, it was so much fun. It was so much fun.
Dude, the best. And then, man, romantically in my mind, I always think man, how nice would it be to be a drunk? You know what I mean? To be work a functioning drunk, But in my mind, I'm I can't do it. Well, not at least until my daughter's 20. But all right. So after UPS, busting your balls at UPS and then busting your ass on the Raiders, right? What's after that?
So I took this Raiders thing a little bit further than that. So I started I dumped UPS and I was like, I can't, this is too much. So I started doing okay.
How long did you last there?
I think I was probably a couple years,
No shit.
Yeah, I think I did it for 2 years maybe.
Dude, it's like signing a fucking military contract. Jesus Christ.
Now, when it wasn't busy, though, it was nice. I was there from 6 a.m. to noon or something, and I was out.
Okay.
So that wasn't too bad. Yeah, so I was nooning it up.
Yeah.
So then I took the Raiders thing, and that was one of the most fun I've ever had. So I remember I started getting some momentum with it. The Raiders were really bad, but I started to build up a decent following with that. So I got a call one time, and it was a Honolulu, Hawaii area code. And I was like, whoa, I'm a telemarketer guy. So I pick it up, and this guy's like, hey, I'm the producer from ESPN Radio, the Bobby Curran Show, and I want to have you on as a guest to talk about the Raiders.
All right.
So that was one of the coolest things I've ever done. So I went and did a live segment with him. I remember doing the math because it was such a ridiculous time difference. I was in Philadelphia and they were airing the show, and it took me 10 minutes to figure out actually what time I was supposed to be on this show. It's a 6-hour time difference, but I didn't know which way or whatever. So I know that was a disaster. But I finally figured it out. And then I got on the show and he peppered me with a bunch of questions. But thankfully, I was I was really nervous to start. But once you get into it, I did the work. I'd done the work. I knew what I was talking about as far as the Raiders were concerned. So I did that. And then I did it. Then he called me back and I did it one more time. So I wouldn't trade that experience for anything. That was as cool. Dude, that was the pinnacle.
That's fucking badass, man. Shit like that, there's different things, I don't know, everyone has their travels and stuff, but the fact that you worked, so I saw you, man, and I would read your material and you would do so good work on the blog, and to get noticed by one of your peers on a major radio show, dude, I remember hearing that. I was like, dude, fucking thank God, so proud of this guy. What an accomplishment, man. And I know it's yeah, you're not fucking Todd McShay, but dude, you were in it, man. You were it almost solidified you like, yeah, I'm a real sports analyst. Like, fuck yeah, man. Like, I was on ESPN. You can go fucking suck a dick, whatever you say. I put in the time. I did the work. Because everyone fucking hates, man. Everyone fucking hates. Like, when you're saying like, oh, I'm a blog for the Oakland Raiders, like people like obviously like your boys and stuff, like, dude, that's fucking great. We're gonna support. But then other people you say like they'll just fucking they hate right away because they're jealous or whatever. You know what I mean? And like they almost don't want to like they almost don't want to solidify you as that. Like, you are a fucking sports analyst. You're legit being paid to fucking analyze sports, right? And like when you're doing it for Oakland, you know what I mean? Like, you can say you were a writer for the Oakland Raiders, yeah. And people be like, oh, okay, whatever. And then you can say like, no, I was also a sports analyst on ESPN. So go, and I was brought in as a specialist for the Oakland Raiders on ESPN. So fuck you, I'm the real deal. You know what I mean? Like, good. I was so fucking, I remember that. And I was like, that's fucking right, man. Way to fucking go. You know, so proud of you for that, man. And that shit, like, fuck all those people who said that, you know, oh, he's just a, you know, whatever. I don't know if anyone even said that because no one ever said that to me, but fuck them. All right. So awesome, man. Dude, that's great. You're all, yeah, I remember that now. Now that you say it, God, dude, when was that? 2013, 2014?
Yeah, I think it was like, I think I did it from like, it had to been like, yeah, like 2011 to like the 2014, somewhere in that neighborhood. Yeah, geez, it goes by so fast anymore. But I remember when I started, man, dude, like didn't know, like I had built up everything, like Twitter, Facebook, like Google Plus. I was posting stuff on Google Plus. Like I was doing it all, man, like articles and everything. And I think I made like a penny my first month, like because it was like like how many times people came to your site and stuff like that. I think they actually cut me like a direct deposit for 1 cent. And I was like, oh boy, this is gonna be tough. But you know. That's part of life, though. You just grind it out. You try to do your best, and to get like recognized like that. And first of all, thank you so much for saying all that stuff. That's why you're the best, and I love you.
Hey, man, right back at you, brother.
But yeah, that was definitely one of those times where I was like, man, all that hard work and just not just saying like F it and being it, like that actually worked out. Now there's times that it hasn't, but that was one that did.
People don't realize, like, people that don't ever fucking try shit don't realize like how much you have to fight yourself for second guessing. You know what I mean? Like, I remember when I was fighting, right? And like people like I like, you know, like I would always be like, what, like it comes like obviously doubt creeps in your mind. You know what I mean? And you just have to say, you know, go shove it. You know what I mean? Like, this isn't like, I don't fucking care what you're saying, the doubt and all that stuff. Like, you're just like, you have to do it for your reasons, obviously. But my thought was, you know, like the doubt that creeps in of like you're trying something and people right away are just fucking hating, and like the being able to say go fuck yourself to them, that's the best thing ever, you know, because you fucking stuck to your guns, you knew your worth, and hey, dude, fucking hey, man, there's sometimes you swing and you miss, but like only like one of the things they'll say in fighting, right? If you lose a fight, people will tell you, hey, man, only 1% of the population will ever do what you did. Same thing with you, man. There's only so many people that have ever been on ESPN as a fucking sports analyst. You know what I'm saying? So, like, no one can take that away from you. And you fucking, the other thing is, no one gave it to you either. You're the fucking sword of the morning. You're a once-in-a-generation talent, and you fucking earned it, too. I'll tell you that right now. I was there. You fucking earned it. So, dude, proud of you, man. So, all right. So enough smoking your fat cock. Let's keep moving. Okay, so we're coming. So here's a term I learned from an office, that we are coming to the top of time, but we're not there yet. We still have plenty of time. So after UPS, after killing it on ESPN and for the Oakland Raiders, what was your next job?
Yeah, so I came back briefly. So I moved out of Philly, just was getting, you know, it was just too much. Needed to kind of settle down. That was just too hard of a lifestyle to live.
What was the street that you guys lived on?
It was 15th Street. It was right by Temple's. The address was 1534. I think it was like 13th Street or something like that.
So people don't realize that in Philadelphia, Broad Street is the number one street in Philadelphia. Broad Street. That's also 14th Street.
Correct. Right? Yep. So that's the one that runs all the way through the whole city.
Yeah.
Right down.
That's the one, like the stadiums are on, City Hall's on, Temple's on, like all. That's the number one street. So you lived on 15th Street, which is
So
one block
13th, yeah,
off.
one
Okay.
block off of that, right by Temple.
Yeah.
So, but it was great. I mean, we had super ton of fun there, but it was just like I needed to, start a career, and I was
You
working
grew out of
that
the party
stuff.
lifestyle.
Yeah, right. And I
Yeah.
was like, all right, now it's time to, get in there and figure out what I actually want to do. I've learned a lot from these jobs that I've had, but I can't, I'm trying to, I'll grind, but I'd like to do it a little bit less if I can.
Right.
If I can.
But you also, you wanted to give yourself a fair shake in a way.
Yeah,
where it's
you want
like,
to. Yeah, exactly. You want to do something that you can do for the rest of your life at that point. So I went back to 44 PA.
Land of the free, home of the brave.
Yep, so got back to the Citizen's Voice just so I can continue to write and earn a couple bucks and do what I always love to do. Always loved to write about sports. So
how do you get paid for that? So what is the pay like? Are you on salary? How does it work?
It was like per article. You get paid for per article, but I would work and which helps me tremendously to this day. I would do every sport: football, basketball, volleyball, soccer, field hockey, lacrosse. Like I would do anything that they needed me to cover, I would do. So I did that, went back to 44, went back to sports writing there. And then this opportunity
Were you building, when you're like covering these sports, are you building relationships with people while covering these sports?
100%, huge part of it. That's a really good question. Cause that's, you're doing it in the same area. And I did it for probably all combined, probably 8 years or something like that. So at that point, I know the coaches, I know the players, I pretty much know this. You get to know the school district because you're there covering games there every week. You know what I mean? You start to get a lot of networking in and, find people that are important. And that's a huge part of it. And so that was a huge help, but nothing was more beneficial than doing as much a diverse sports as you could, because then this opportunity came up to become an athletic director. And I went and got the interview, and the biggest selling point that I had was that I know, like some people know football, somebody who's a football coach, somebody's a basketball coach. I know every sport that we play, I've been and covered and have a somewhat.
And you've been to all the fields and you've been to all the stadiums. So, okay, so let's get to that. So right now you are an athletic director for a school district. We won't say the school district, but so right now, so what you're doing is, and people don't realize how much so here's a question, and I always ask this so for boxing, I coach boxing, right? But the thing is, and I've heard this from a lot of people, is that the worst thing about coaching isn't the kids, it's the parents, right? But for boxing, it's different because the parents can't say shit to me because they don't fucking know. It's not like the parents were in, playing JV boxing in high school. You know what I mean? Like they don't fucking, it's fucking my show. Like, obviously, I'm not hurting any kids and whatever like that, but I'm just saying, it's no parent's going to tell me that I ran the wrong scheme on that play. You know what I'm saying? Right. So for you, though, as an athletic director, what is worse, the parents or the kids in that aspect?
It's definitely the parents are tough, because I think in certain sports, like say like swimming or track or something like that, like the proof's in the pudding. Like you're either faster, like they take the times, like you're faster. So it's hard to argue with that. But in any other sport where you can get, playing time, basketball, football, all that things. Now it doesn't affect me as much as it would a coach. Now, like once they get, they'll usually go to the coach first. He'll come to me. We'll talk it out. And they do call me, certainly. But it's definitely would be much harder on the coaches than it is for me. But it can be tough, because when it comes to, kids and people's kids, they want the best for them. And if they don't feel like they're getting that opportunity, they can get upset.
And they look for someone to blame, and you're one of the people that can blame.
Yeah, no doubt. Now, I feel like I have a pretty good relationship with them. I try to do my best to be as open and available as I can. So if you do have a problem, I'm not going to shy away from you. You can call me. Yeah. You can come talk to me at the game. Like, I might not have the answer or the answer you're looking for, but I'm at least available to talk it out.
Plus, too, if you're fair, I remember my uncle. My uncle had done some time, and we were talking about criminal activities, and he was pretty much high up in a criminal organization. But he would always say that the people, the best and the worst people to deal with are the Russians, but they're the best because they treat it as a business. Everything is straight up and down. And I feel in most scenarios, right, if they don't like the answer, they don't like the answer. But if you're honest and straight up and down with them and be like, look, this is what it is, this is how it is, and this is why. And people, like, if they're mad about it, they're mad about it. But if you gave them the straight answer, then that's it, right? Like, they can't be like, if you're fucking lying to them, I would be more like, yeah, okay, I can get over, like, okay, if this is what it is, then if something has to fix it, then whatever, right? But if you're lying to me and like presenting false hope and like backtracking, that's the other thing. So I feel like, knowing you're more of like this fucking let's get to it, like straight up and down. What is it? What's the deal? Let's get it done. No lingering bullshit. Is that right?
Let's figure it out. What can we do here to help you, and how can I answer your questions and stuff like that? I'm always available for that. And you're exactly right. You have to be direct, because if you start blowing smoke, then that benefits nobody. Then they don't know what they need to do to get better, and how do they get, like, that's why you bring in the coaches. Like, they can tell them, this is what you need to do to get better. Like, these are maybe a few things that, you do these things well, you don't do these things as well. These are the things you need to do to get better. If you can do that and you show me that you're committed and you do improve those things, then, that's how you earn your playing time.
How long were you athletic director of a school district before COVID hit?
So I was an assistant for a year, and then I was 2 full years, my 3rd full year. So it has been a nightmare. Yeah, it's been a nightmare.
Oh my! So you're kind of like, so first year, so you were an assistant, then you had your first year where you're dipping your toe in. Second year, you're kind of getting your shit going, and then boom, right at the end of your second year, you're kicked right in the schwanz.
That's a perfect way to do it. Like, your first year, there's no blueprint for this. Like, thankfully, I got to work with a guy that was before me. He was great. He was there for like 40 some years, and he was a huge benefit to me. But then, that takes you so far, and then you're doing it on your own, and you learn your own way, and you learn what works for you. And then the second year, you're starting to feel more comfortable. You feel like, okay, this is a role. I'm in it now. I'm learning so much. I'm learning how to figure this out. And then something like that, like something like COVID hits, and you're just like, well, throw out the playbook, because this is an absolute disaster.
Dude, baptism under fire, man. You know what I mean? Like, that's really
so true.
That's really what you got. So real quick, let's break down, what are like the responsibilities of the athletic director? Can you kind of sum it up?
Yeah. So I deal with all the coaches. I evaluate the coaches. I'm here for them, for any questions that they have. That's
Are you involved in like the hiring and firing of the coaches?
I do. I am on like the committee if we fire, or if we hired somebody. Usually I'm not involved in firing them. I evaluate them, so that could be part of the process that maybe they haven't held up there in the bargain. But I don't fire anybody, and then usually I'm part of the committee that does the interviews for hiring people. Yep. So that's part of it. And then obviously dealing with the coaches, dealing with, your administrative roles, getting transportation, building a schedule, making sure that you have places to practice, and you work with a lot of, like, I'm really lucky. I work with a lot of really awesome coaches. I love the kids here where I work. They're great kids. They remind me so much of me when I was younger, so they're easy to root for, and they're easy to get behind. So, and there's a million things, man. My day is really never the same. Things come up, so you're fielding calls. You're working with a lot of different people. People that maintain the fields, the coaches, the parents, the kids. Making sure
if it rains, you're on like the weather.
You're the guy. You got to make the call, which is really hard, because I mean, you just use like the weather app. You're like, it's like it's gonna rain.
Have you ever had like a swing and a miss where they're like, fucking, this is gonna be a rager, this storm's coming through, and we're all done afterwards, and then you're like, all right guys, well, we're all gonna not have houses, so I gotta cancel the game, and then it's like 70 and sunny.
Yes, man, I did it. It was like a junior high. It was a junior high track event. I really wanted to get it done, because you only have so much movement for those, because like do it once a week, and they usually have like,
and they need a whole
on the weekend. Yeah, exactly. Right.
Yeah.
So it was like I kept looking at this radar. I'm like, oh, this is coming in. Like it's gonna rain, and I don't want these kids out there. If it's like a thunderstorm comes by, because there's nowhere to go either. Like you're out in just the middle of a track. So I'm like, oh, it's gonna rain. So I waited and I waited, trying to get the best read I could. So I called the other team. I was like, all right, we're gonna cancel today. Called the officials and everything. And then like an hour later, it just nothing ever happened, and it was so nice. It was like the most beautiful day of the year, and I was like, ah.
I guarantee, had you not canceled it, a fucking tornado would have hit.
1,000%, 1,000%. I've also, there's been times too where I've pushed, like I have like wouldn't relent. I'm like, we're playing today, like a baseball game or something. Like we're gonna get it in, and it's worked out. So sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. Part of being in the state.
Yeah, best shooters keep shooting, baby. You know,
exactly.
I'll tell you what, the kids appreciate it too because they want to play. So
Absolutely.
if you're a kid, you're thinking about it from the player's perspective, where it's like, dude, I need these games. Like, hey, this could be the fucking game. I pitch a no hitter and I get a fucking college offer. You know what I mean? Like that's like their thing. You know what I'm saying? So like they want to play every game. So if I were a player, I would want my AD to push to be like, no, we're waiting. Like it's got to be something huge, you know. Like we're playing in a lot of we're playing no matter what, unless whatever. So I think the kids would appreciate that, and I think that's great. So what you do is you deal with all the coaches, right? Yep. Like you don't deal with like their payroll and everything like that. Right?
No. Okay. Nope. I do submit like their stuff to the people, so like they know who's the head basketball coach, who's like the JV, and every coach. I send them a list to our business office, and they take it from there.
Are you responsible for getting like the officiating for every sports event as well?
So what we do as a league, like all of our ADs in our league get together, and everybody takes a sport. Everybody, so like they'll assign the baseball officials. Some people they'll assign the basketball. It works. It's a great way to do it.
Does it rotate every year, or is it always?
So whoever takes football, they do it as long as they can and they want to. Somebody takes basketball, they do it as long as they can or until something.
But do you ever think there's ever like, okay, say if you're at a school and you're like, look, our football team's good and I want to get the good guys on our side. So like, do you ever think there's any like cooking the books with the refs, so to speak, where it's like, hey, if you're doing basketball, hey, remember, I'm the one that gets you your shit. So fucking screw the other team here. Give me some of the calls, Is that like, do you think that would go down or no?
No, I don't think so. No, I wouldn't. No, I think the dudes around here are pretty like, I don't, they do the best that they can.
There's not a lot of action on a high school girls JV basketball.
Yeah, I don't think it doesn't matter who you get.
The volleyball over doesn't miss much.
Exactly.
Yeah. So, all right. Nice. So look, man, we are coming to the top of time. We do have a hard out. So look, bro, really loved having you on and would really like it if you would come back on as a repeat guest. Would you be willing to do that?
Dude, anytime. I had the best time. I love you, man. This is so much fun. I can't wait to do it again.
I can't wait either because really we kind of like set the table, right? Because we didn't get into any major stories about scheduling games and shit during COVID, right? And I can only fathom like the amount of fucking monstrosity you had to put up with during this, like canceling, rescheduling, all this shit for COVID. Like God only knows what you had to go through for this. So
it's been an insane wild ride, man. We'll next time we talk, we'll go through it all. It's been crazy.
Oh man, and I can't wait, dude. So awesome. All right, so you've been a great guest. We really had some good stuff. This is a very interesting episode, and I'm fascinated to see you came up, your kid grew up in blue collar neighborhood, with your parents, and we didn't even get into what your parents do. What do your parents do?
My dad's a lawyer, and my mom worked for as like a teacher for a while. Not like she was just like she worked at like an extension of a university to teach like the university research resources.
Fucking got some smart parents over there, huh? You fucking smart. Look at you, you're smart. Fucking hey. I fucking knew you were smart. Nice, man. All right, cool. So you got a dad who's a fucking lawyer, then you got a mom who's a fucking professor, you know. So you guys were really like fighting to make ends meet. I understand. Uh, but no, so okay, cool. So I love the story of how you started out, you know, regular neighborhood kid with your friends. You still have the same friends to this day. Pod has been your best and longest friend since day one, right? Is that it?
Yep. I met him in preschool.
Man, ride or die with that guy. Fucking shit eating grin Mike Podkasey. Fucking yeah, you heard it. Shit eating grin Mike Podkasey. Fucking write it down. So but either way, you came up with your crew, still your crew today. Great bunch of guys. Met them all, good dudes. You know, and the story of how you started out as in the housing authority, working as a mechanic, to becoming a sports writer for the Oakland Raiders, and then becoming a sports analyst on ESPN, to then working, you know, while working at UPS, stocking trucks just to get by while you're, you know, getting your dream going. And then you build all these relationships covering athletics in the area, and then eventually got you the job to be the athletic director you are today, where you're doing a great job and killing it. And man, this is just, you know, so proud of you, man. See, because I saw you back when I was drinking car bombs and you couldn't drink because you were underage. And to see you now, it's just been a wild ride, but glad I could be a part of it. And this is fucking great. And I can't wait to have you back on. The next time you're on, we're digging deep into some COVIDness. And I can't wait. I might even book you after the show. But so this is where we come to the part. Nick, say thank you for coming on.
Thanks, buddy.
Yep, glad to have you. Love you too. And then, so this is where I'm going to end the show. But make sure you check us out on Twitter at WorkingPPod. If you want to come on the show, email us your info and we'll put you through the approval process. And you can email us at workingperspectives@gmail.com. You can also follow us on Instagram, YouTube, and wherever at the Working Perspectives page on Instagram and YouTube. And yeah, thanks for listening. This is the end of the episode, and Nick Gill's been the best. Working Perspectives Podcast. I'm Matt Lavelle with my editor and producer, Tom Byers. You know, have a good one. See you later. We're done. Bye. Do you have a message or a story inside of you that you've been waiting to tell? Have you always dreamed of writing a book, but are intimidated by the complexities of the book publishing world? Perhaps you want to use a book to launch your public speaking or consulting career. If so, please reach out to Scott and Bell Publishing, located right here in beautiful Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Scott and Bell Publishing handle all genres and authors with all experience levels. Scott and Bell Publishing gives authors 100% creative freedom and a higher royalty split. They can be found at www.skotbell.com. That's www.s as in Sam, K as in kite, O as in October, T as in Tom, B as in boy, E as in Edward, L as in Larry, L as in Larry.com. That's Scott and Bell Publishing, where the authors go.